I promise this is not a video bashing WrestleCon. It's not even saying that WrestleCon was bad. This is a video explaining my experience going to WrestleCon with the expectations that I put on it, which is my own fault. You see, I've never been to a con of any sort. I've only ever heard of like Comic-Con or like TwitchCon, like all these like anime type cons, and I see all these photos and I see all of these videos when people go to a con, and that definitely skewed my expectations of what to expect going to WrestleCon in Cleveland before SummerSlam. I also want to be completely fair. From what I can tell, I've gone back on their page, everything that they've advertised, they delivered on everything that they promised. So this is not an issue with anything that they did or didn't deliver on. This is purely I had my own expectation of what a con could be, and this is what I found. Now, the other thing I need to say is that in my last video, or one of my last videos, I mentioned that I paid $40 per ticket to go to this WrestleCon. I misspoke. I didn't even catch it when I said it. These were $20 tickets, not 40, but I bought them in pairs, which made me think 40 because I went with my fiance Tally. So that was my mistake. These were $20 tickets to go per day. So there was a $20 fee just to get in the building and get into the floor, rather, where all of the WrestleCon stuff was happening. But I guess the only thing that really caught me off guard was that once you paid to get in, there wasn't really, from what I could tell, there wasn't anything to do that didn't cost more money, which I understand. They have to charge because they're hosting this, and then the wrestlers who are there doing their meet and greets are charging as well because they've got to get their money. I was just a little surprised that when I got to WrestleCon, I got to the floor, there was nothing else there. There was nothing to look at. There was nothing to do other than one room, which I'll put on the screen right now, which was just tables all around the edges that were they just had wrestlers' names over them, and you could wait in line and you could meet them. And from what I could tell, they seemed really nice. There were different wrestlers with different prices. From what I could tell, the most common pricing was about $60 for either a photo or an autograph, or you could pair them together for an extra $20. So I saw there was a couple where it was 40 for each, or you could get both for 60. So an extra $20 to get both instead of 40 for just one of them. But again, the prices did vary based on the wrestler. I'm not sure if they were taking cash, but I did see that a bunch of them had papers on their actual table that had like Venmo scannables, so you could just Venmo them. Other than that room, there was one other much smaller room with some signed merch that you could buy. This was almost exclusively figures or photos. There wasn't a ton past that. There was a little bit. There were some chairs, there were some hats, but not like merch, like hats. It was like a hat that a certain wrestler would wear or something like that. Basically, it seemed like if you were going to get I guess more of an experience to go to WrestleCon, or any experience going to WrestleCon, you kind of had to be willing to also spend more once you were inside. There wasn't a ton to look at or experience. There was nothing that you could just do. And if that sounds crazy, like, oh, why would you expect that? I don't know. I've just seen videos of these other cons where there's just things going on, that, you know, there's games to play, there's things to do. And I didn't look up previous WrestleCons. I saw everybody getting excited about it, and I just connected in my head that, you know, it's a con. I thought there would be a little bit more to it. But I have checked their website, and everything that they said they would have was there. And it really was just a chance to meet wrestlers, but you did have to pay for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Wrestlers got to get paid, especially if they're not currently wrestling anymore. Good for them. There wasn't really any decorations. There wasn't anything. That it just felt like some tables had been set up, and it was just business. It was just, you get there, do your meet, get your photo for $60, get an autograph for $60, and, you know, do it again. Go to the next one, because I mean, that means if you're paying $20 to actually do something further past, you know, just walking around doing nothing really. I mean, maybe you see someone you recognize and you can talk, but I mean, you could talk downstairs for free. That means you paid $20 to get in the door. and then $60 for a photo with one wrestler. So if there was like 2 or 3 wrestlers that you wanted to see, you're talking spending $200+ for WrestleCon just for those autographs or photos, and then you're gone. Which I'm sure there's plenty of those that were there, and plenty of you that that can afford that. That wasn't really going to be in my price range. There also wasn't any wrestlers there that I was super invested in. That's a lot of retired wrestlers, and since I'm newer to the product, I recognized a lot of them, especially from people that were in Patreon matches that I've watched. That shout out to the patrons that have suggested to me a lot of these classic matches, or I wouldn't have known who a lot of those wrestlers were. The best part about it, I mean, I got to meet a couple of you that happened to spot me walking around WrestleCon, so that was cool. I got to meet Wheezy Blonde. She was walking around. That was cool. And I talked to Matt Riddle. I didn't pay for it. I didn't get a picture, autograph, or anything. So maybe they don't charge just to say hello or something. I don't know. But he was chilling by himself, and I just kind of walked by. I noticed it was him. That's probably one of the wrestlers that I recognized the most from the entire group. And we talked for a couple minutes. We actually talked for 2 or 3 minutes about how he's participating in Combat One wrestling, and it actually comes through Michigan once in a while. And I told him that I had actually almost gone to a show where he had been recently, but I wasn't able to. So in that respect, yeah, I would say I got my $20 worth. I got to meet a few of you guys. I got to meet Wheezy. I met Matt Riddle. So in that, yeah, it was fine. It was just, I was really expecting something more. And what exactly would that be? I don't know. I've never been to a con before. So it probably was just me building up this idea from seeing photos and videos from other cons. But there was one thing that kind of stood out to me. And by the way, I did talk about this in my vlog for SummerSlam. I did get a couple pieces of merch from the actual WrestleCon store. I got this signed Bailey, like art rendering something. I don't know. It just looked cool. And then Tally picked up this SummerSlam Roman Reigns signed photo as well. The only negative thing that I will really say that felt kind of underwhelming, it really felt like this WrestleCon was an afterthought. It felt like other WrestleCons maybe were that was the freshly cooked WrestleCon, and I feel like WrestleCon Cleveland was the warmed up leftovers. And I'm sure there's some of you who have already said like, oh man, it was great, you just didn't do this, you just didn't do that. Fine, but just hear me out on this last part here. I told you I bought that merch at the smaller room where they had just stuff to like collectibles to buy. When you bought something, there was a pile of shirts and like bags on the way out, right? Just a pile. And when you buy something, any of the people working there say, feel free to take 1 or 10 of those t-shirts by the door on your way out. And I was like, oh, cool, some WrestleCon t-shirts. And that's when it occurred to me that other WrestleCons got dedicated merch. So I have this. It's a WrestleCon gold Philadelphia shirt. I grabbed this one, which was also a WrestleCon Philadelphia shirt. So it does seem like there is more effort and maybe a little bit more pizzazz to a WrestleCon that's focused around WrestleMania instead of SummerSlam. That was my indicator while leaving that, oh, maybe this is kind of like a quick filler version of this WrestleCon, and maybe there are better versions of this. And by the way, I went to both days, so they didn't just run out of the WrestleCon Cleveland shirts, which clearly they had surplus from previous ones. I doubt they would sell out in the first hour of the Cleveland one. I was there both days. Both times I was there like shortly after it started. So there was no, like from what I could find anyway, there wasn't any WrestleCon Cleveland merch, which kind of tells me that maybe the SummerSlam version just doesn't get as much love. Yeah, even this bag here, WrestleCon Los Angeles. Los Angeles right at the top. So I don't know what show was in Los Angeles in recent memory. Those were all things that they just kind of gave to you on the way out that were all WrestleCon merch, for previous shows. There wasn't anything like that to, you know, commemorate or remember WrestleCon Cleveland. So because I had this thought and I had these t-shirts and everything, I did want to go and I wanted to skim the website and see exactly, maybe I missed something. And there was something, and I'll put it up on the screen. You can read it for yourself. There was a section that says, this is in the frequently asked questions, by the way. This was not written, this wasn't on the ad. So I want to be very clear. It's not like the poster included this information and you would know this easily before buying the tickets. At least I did not see it if it was. But this is in the frequently asked questions. It says, will you continue to have pro photo ops? Very first sentence, because Destination Cleveland is a smaller version of our Mania weekend convention, there will not be pro photos offered in Cleveland. So right there is where I got the realization with, okay, that these WrestleCons are not exactly, this is their diet WrestleCon, which if they put that somewhere and I missed it, totally fair. Again, I'm not bashing this in the slightest. They delivered on everything they said would be there. I just didn't expect that to be the only thing there. So my tip to anybody looking into WrestleCon going forward, check the logo, check the way they advertise it. If it says destination, maybe that's the indicator, because again, it says on there, because Destination Cleveland is a smaller version. Or if you're going to any that aren't based around WrestleMania, you might, you know, lower that expectation. I don't know what they charge for the regular Mania ones. Maybe this is a cheaper ticket because it's a smaller one. Is there anybody who went to WrestleCon at a WrestleMania? Do you remember how much you paid? I don't think I would go to WrestleCon again for a SummerSlam, or if they do one at the Rumble. I think if I was going to do it again, I would wait until WrestleMania, because all of the merch that I can see, I don't know if that LA one was there a WrestleMania in Los Angeles in recent years? I'm not 100% sure. So I would probably give it a try if it was at WrestleMania and if I was going to be in the area for a WrestleMania. But let me know, did you go to WrestleCon at SummerSlam? Did you have a different experience? Was there another floor or a room? Because I thought I looked everywhere. I checked the signs. It didn't display anything indicating that I missed anything. But for what it's worth, meeting people there was cool. Just seeing the wrestlers that I recognize from across a room was kind of cool, and looking at the collectibles that you could buy was also pretty cool. It just wasn't quite what I expected. If you have any questions about this WrestleCon, feel free to drop a comment. I'll answer it. If you were at WrestleCon, let me know. Like, did you have a different experience? How was meeting some of the wrestlers? I'm very curious what it was like to actually like Venmo them and then take a selfie, or did, you know, I assume it was only selfies. I didn't see any. I'm guessing that's what it mentions here about not having pro photo ops. I'm guessing that means you need to take the picture with your own camera or your own phone. But yeah, not a long video. I don't have a ton to say about it, and that's why I didn't mention it in the SummerSlam vlog. It was more of an awkward experience and a little bit of an underwhelming experience, and it didn't really fit the vibe of that video. If you want to see my full trip to SummerSlam, check out the vlog video that just went up a couple days ago. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to the patrons flying up the screen. See you in the next one.